Why do some people end up religious while others never do? Why does one person see religion as comforting and another finds it unnecessary or even strange? This is one of those questions that seems simple on the surface but becomes more complex the more you look at it. The truth is, people don't always turn to religion for the reasons they say. And those who walk away from it rarely do so on a whim. There's a deep divide between those who adopt religion and those who leave it behind, and the causes of that divide are often hidden, even from the people themselves. Let's start with something obvious but often ignored. Most people adopt the religion they were born into. A child born in a Hindu family usually becomes Hindu. A child raised in a Christian household usually grows up Christian. That's not because these beliefs are automatically true. It's because children tend to trust their parents. Early in life, authority means everything. And when you're young, being told something by someone you love and depend on feels just as strong as evidence. But as people grow up, not everyone continues on the same path. Some start to ask questions. Others dig deeper into their faith. But how they respond to what they find depends heavily on what they were looking for in the first place. There's a well-known study by two psychologists in Canada. They looked at people who made major changes in their religious identity. Some had grown up religious and left it. Others had no religion and joined one. The people who walked away from religion did so slowly. They often spent months, even years, thinking, reading, reflecting. It was a lonely process. Sometimes it started with a question that didn't have a good answer. Sometimes it began with a contradiction that couldn't be resolved. These people weren't angry or rebellious. They were searching for what made sense. They weren't pushed out by trauma or pulled by temptation. They left because the ideas didn't hold up under close inspection. On the other hand, the people who became religious as adults usually did so quickly. It often happened during emotional stress, after a loss, during a crisis, or when they felt isolated. It wasn't always about truth. It was about comfort, community, structure. They weren't persuaded by arguments. They were moved by a feeling of belonging, or by someone they trusted telling them they could find peace through faith. That doesn't mean they were wrong or weak. It just means their reason for turning to religion wasn't based on careful study. It was more about solving a personal problem. Religion offered them something they needed at the time. There's a pattern here. People who walk away from religion often do it because they value truth above all. They were usually taught to seek truth as children, even by the very parents who raised them religious. So when they saw that their beliefs didn't match what they understood about the world, they let go. Not easily, not happily, but because they had to. People who join religion later in life often do so because they value connection, support, and meaning in difficult times. Religion gave them a sense of identity. It helped them feel anchored when they were drifting. This gap in motivation explains a lot. If your goal is emotional safety, then religion might feel like the answer. If your goal is intellectual honesty, then religion might start to feel like a problem. One group is asking, is this true? The other is asking, does this help me? Both are human questions, but they don't always lead to the same conclusion. A lot of people say they found faith through a personal experience, but when you ask what that experience was, it's often vague. It might have been a feeling during a song, or a sense of peace in a difficult moment. But emotional experience doesn't always prove anything about the world. It only proves what someone felt at the time. And feelings, while real, aren't always reliable. You can feel a deep connection watching a sunset, but that doesn't mean the sun is conscious or divine. On the other side, people who walk away from religion rarely say it happened in a single moment. It's more like a slow erosion. A crack appears, then another. At first, they try to patch it. They ask their pastor, or imam, or rabbi, but the answers don't quite fit. Eventually, the questions grow too large to ignore, and then the whole framework collapses. Interestingly, people who leave religion often report feeling isolated at first. Many of them lose friendships. Some are rejected by family. Some are told they were never true believers. But in most cases, that's not true. They were once fully committed. Some even more committed than those who stayed. But commitment alone doesn't make something true. If anything, it makes it harder to let go once you realize it isn't. There's another thing worth noting. People who leave religion often become more tolerant. That might sound counterintuitive. But when you're no longer trying to defend a belief system that says only one way is right, you begin to accept other views more easily. In one study, young people cited harsh anti-gay rhetoric as a major reason for leaving their church. They weren't comfortable with exclusion. They wanted a worldview that reflected their sense of fairness. That's a strong motivator. When what you believe starts to clash with what you feel is just, something has to give. Environment also plays a big role. Many people lose their faith when they leave the bubble they grew up in. When you meet people of other religions, or no religion at all, it forces you to see your own beliefs differently. You start to wonder why your faith is supposed to be the only correct one when others believe theirs just as deeply. The more diverse your world becomes, the harder it is to believe that only your group has it right. Then there's education. Not everyone who is educated leaves religion. But there is a clear trend. The more someone studies science, history, and philosophy, the more likely they are to question religious claims. Not because education teaches them to be cynical, but because it gives them better tools for thinking. They learn how to question assumptions. They learn how to weigh evidence. And they see how often people throughout history have been wrong about things they were absolutely sure of. There's also something very human in the appeal of religion. It offers easy answers. It wraps up big questions in neat packages. What happens after we die? Why do bad things happen? What is the purpose of life? Religion steps in with a complete story. That can be comforting, but comfort and truth are not the same thing. Just because something feels good doesn't make it accurate. That's the hard part. Letting go of beliefs that once gave you purpose can feel like losing a part of yourself. But people do it anyway, not because they want to, but because they feel they must. Meanwhile, some people find religion later in life, not because of new evidence, but because they reach a point where they crave stability or clarity. Maybe their life became chaotic. Maybe they wanted a moral framework they could follow. Maybe they were grieving. Religion stepped in and gave them structure. But again, the reasons people turn to religion are often emotional, not logical. They're looking for community. They're looking for belonging. They want to feel safe. And religion is very good at providing that. It offers rituals. It offers identity. It offers answers. But the value of those things doesn't prove the claims behind them. And here's something even more subtle. People often say they believe in God, but when you press for details, their definition shifts. Some describe a personal deity. Others say it's more like a force or energy. Some believe in a literal heaven. Others say it's just a metaphor. What that shows is that belief is fluid. It adapts to the person's needs. It evolves to stay relevant. That's not a sign of truth, it's a sign of flexibility. On the other side, those who stop believing rarely come up with a new system to replace the old one. That's because they're not swapping one certainty for another. They're admitting they don't know. That takes humility. It's not always easy to say, I don't have all the answers. But that's what makes it honest. So why do some people turn to religion and others don't? It comes down to what they need and what they're willing to question. Some need comfort, others need clarity. Some are looking for a place to belong. Others are looking for what makes sense. Religion meets emotional needs, but reason answers different kinds of questions. And the two don't always travel in the same direction. Not everyone who is religious is irrational. Not everyone who leaves religion is cold or distant. But when you look closely, the paths people take often reflect the things they value most. Whether it's community, comfort, truth, or freedom, people follow what they believe will give their life meaning. But meaning and truth are not always the same thing. And the people who leave religion often do so because, at some point, truth became more important than tradition.